Hi, it's Bronwyn here, and today I want to give you a little briefing session on accessible tourism and what that looks like right now in Australia and pretty much all over the Western world, because it kind of correlates with some research happening or has happened with Visit Britain. So we had this week, Tourism Research Australia published some research on what accessible tourism looks like in Australia. I'd like to show you now. Now, one of the main things about accessible tourism is that what we're seeing is that it's actually being driven by our ageing population. So those that tend to be aged over 60 years old. And I'll tell you why that matters, because dipping a toe into the accessible tourism market, people kind of automatically associate that with increased asset costs or changing rooms and configuring showers and all those sorts of things. But it's not that at all. It's actually more about some other types of accessible needs for travellers. So if you have a look at some of the stats that have come out here, for example, only 1% of accessible travellers require a wheelchair or a scooter. So that's quite significantly lower than what I thought it would be. Then we have vision impairment, learning difficulty, and the biggie, the two big ones reported as accessible tourism that I didn't really know about, and you probably don't know either, is mental health conditions, and the second biggest one is chemical sensitivity or food allergies. So knowing those things mean that you can really cater right now to the accessible tourist, which is growing as fast as the ageing population is getting older. And then we have things like hearing impairment, other mobility aids or mobility limitations, which means, you might have a walking stick or a Zimmer frame or something like that. It's generally more to do with mobility needs and stuff that you can't see. So I'm going to let you know what that looks like. I've had some research respondents recently with accessible needs, and just to paint a picture, that to cater to these travellers is actually really pretty easy to do, and you don't have to put in much effort to really grab the loyalty and fabulous business from this market. So what does that look like in some of my research respondents? There's Jules. She's sitting in the pool with husband Bren and his brother, and they travelled with Jules's sister, who is in a moon boot. So she broke her foot just before she went to Vietnam on her Intrepid trip. And I know for a fact that Intrepid were fabulous in dealing with this. And here's Susan and Andrew. Susan wears hearing aids in both ears, and you wouldn't know it to see it. So she actually looks for museums that have audio induction loop systems that go straight into your hearing aid. So it's really cool. My mum's got a hearing aid now, and I know that you can do things like Bluetooth sound through to your hearing aid. So that's Bluetooth, any tour guides or Bluetooth phone calls, podcasts, a whole range of things. So it's pretty awesome. So even if you're accommodation or somewhere near a museum or somewhere that has these types of tours, it can really be helpful to your accessible tourists by letting them know what facilities are close by that do have these types of facilities. Here's Judy and Bob. I interviewed them. They went on a round the world trip for 3 months. Bob's 82 and Jude's in her 70s. Now, one of the things that I remembered when I was chatting to them is that they paid big money for an Airbnb in the centre of Paris. But what that Airbnb did not tell them is that it was up 3 flights of stairs. And if you've ever stayed in central Paris, there's not a lot of lifts. So they had to walk up and down stairs every day. And she said to me that she was terrified on the last day. She couldn't sleep because she was so worried about Bob walking down those 3 flights of very steep stairs with all the bags. So again, if that accommodation could have provided information about that, it's not that they wouldn't have picked the Airbnb, it's just that they would have probably been a bit more prepared for it. It would not have been a shock. So this is the way that you can really cater to these ideal. I mean, they're spending a lot of money. That's the thing, and they're staying for a long time. Just having a bit of information or pictures up there on your website to show people is really important. And any accessible tourism research that I have done, a lot of them say it's all about photos. If you can just upload awesome photos, really detailed photos, lots of photos, even if you do have accessible rooms, it really helps them if they know how they can get around the room and just see that it's appropriate to what they need. Anyway, that's my hot tip for the day, and how to appeal to the accessible traveller. Thanks for staying with me.